What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Horror Franchise Wednesday. Let's talk about David Cronenberg's The Fly. This movie stars Jeff Goldblum and Geena Davis and was directed by Cronenberg. The things I like about this movie is that it is definitely not like the first one. It is a remake, it is a retelling. This is told different. It's not like the first one at all, where you got the wife retelling the story and any of that. And this one's more of a love story. I like that this one has like a love triangle going on. This one's more of a romance story than a science fiction story, although the science fiction elements are definitely here with the science experiments and whatnot. But this one's more of a love story, and I like that. I like all the characters in here. Jeff Goldblum and Geena Davis, I think their performances are terrific, especially Jeff Goldblum, because he has to really take on more than one role. He's not only playing, a genius scientist in the first like third of the movie, but then after that, he has to start playing this, hybrid. He's like turning into a fly, and his personality starts changing, and he has to act with all this makeup on him, just pounds and pounds of makeup on his face and body. So that's not always easy to do. So I definitely gotta give him credit there, because I think he really pulls off an incredible performance here. And it has a really nice climactic ending. It's very emotional, very sad. The effects and gore in this movie by Cronenberg, not just by him, but whoever he hired, but it's like Cronenberg effects. That's what you expect from Cronenberg. Knowing his previous work, he always has like body horror, with Videodrome and scanners. He always has beautiful effects in his movie, and you get that in this movie by a guy named Chris Wallace, right? I think him and his company, or whoever he works for, they did the effects here, and then that guy would end up directing the sequel. But the effects and gore in this movie are top notch. Like when you get like the final phase of his transformation, when he's full on fly at the end, like all the skin's falling off, he's pulling out his teeth and his eye, and just shit's just falling apart. It's awesome. Like very gory, very nasty, and it's just amazing stuff. So kudos to the effects people. And I like that they took that approach with this movie instead of having it just be like a fly head and the cheesy effects that you got in the original. In this one, they decided to take the more like slowly progressing into a fly route, where it's like metamorphosis. He's changing slowly throughout the movie. It's not like instant, like he's got the head already and that one arm. It doesn't do that from the original. It doesn't take that. It does something different. That's what a remake should do. It should borrow the main themes and the main story from the original, but tell it differently and add things, take some things away, change it, modernize it, and that's what this movie does perfectly. I really like the look of the telepods, what they call them, instead of looking like phone booths in the original. I like the updated look here, all the smoke coming out, the lights inside. It looks pretty cool, very sci-fi, very awesome looking. And I thought that the story was very well written. The script, I think, is pretty intelligent, and I just like the way it was told. Cronenberg's direction is great, and it touches on touchy, like controversial subject matter towards the end with abortions and whatnot. It's very emotional. There's some a lot of good characters in here, some character depth. It's a very well told story. I was surprised how much I liked it. It was pretty good. My only knocks in the film is that I think it's a little bit more leisurely paced. It's not really slow, but it definitely takes its time. It doesn't get to the science experiment gone wrong thing like right away. It slowly gets to that. And I thought that the love interest in this movie was a little hard to buy at first, like how quickly she gets in bed with Jeff Goldblum. It seems like on day one, when she's hired to film his experiments, that they're already sleeping together, and I didn't really see that connection between them, like she liked him. It just seemed very all of a sudden like she's sleeping with him, and then she just keeps sleeping with him throughout. Lots of sex in the movie. But yeah, I don't know. The love interest just felt a little forced for the story. And Jeff Goldblum, when he does the experiment with the fly and that shit, how and why he does that felt forced also. Like he has a monkey test successfully, but he's still waiting for like test results to come back. But then he's like, oh, whatever, I'm mad at her for leaving me. And then he just goes in the pods like, what? Okay, just because you're mad at her doesn't mean you should just go risk your life. That doesn't make sense to me. Like why he decided to test himself felt forced. Just again for the story. Like we need to get him in there. We need this to happen. So how are we gonna do this? Well, he gets mad at her, so he just jumps into the pod. It didn't make sense to me why he would do that. But final thoughts: this is truly one of Cronenberg's best movies. I still slightly prefer The Dead Zone, but this is right up there. This is a really good remake. I'm glad I finally watched it. It's got really great effects and a good love story, an emotional ending, and just some really terrific performances by Jeff Goldblum and Geena Davis. And it's definitely a classic worth seeking out. So when it comes to The Fly, I recommend that you go out and buy it. All right, spoiler discussion. So I like that he has the sliding door. It's a small detail, but I like that they kept that from the original movie. He has the sliding door, kind of like Leatherface. And instead of testing a china plate, in this one, they test Geena Davis's stocking. And then they put the monkey in the machine, or baboon, or whatever, and it gets turned inside out. I think I mentioned in my Fly 1 review that I thought that's what they were going to do with the cat, was show the cat get turned inside out, but I guess that would have been too graphic at the time. But in this one, the monkey is inside out. It's a mess. It's a mutilated monkey. So that was pretty awesome to see. That was gory as fuck. And then they test a steak, and they find out that this machine can't really properly replicate food and make it taste like food. It tastes synthetic, she says. And so then, what was his real... So I thought this was interesting. So his motivation behind making the machine in this movie seemed like he was making it because of car sickness, not because he wanted to help the world. But maybe it's both. Maybe it's two birds, one stone. In the original, he wants to create this machine to teleport equipment and people across the world. But in this one, he just wants to create something that will help him not have to travel anymore, because they established that he gets car sick very easily and has a really bad case of it. Just like my whole family has car sickness. They can't ride passenger in the car without getting sick. Luckily, that's not me. I've never felt car sick in my life. I don't have that problem, but Jeff Goldblum, his character, I forget his name, he has that problem, so that's why he's making the machine. Maybe it's that, or maybe it's to help the world. I don't know if it's selfish reasons or whatnot, but I thought that was interesting that they added that element in here too. It's a more personal reason why he's creating this machine, not just help the planet or make things more convenient for others, but to also help him personally with his own car sickness problems. Another thing this movie does differently than the original is they make him like very hyper and energetic. He becomes like an instant gymnast. He's hopping all over the place. He's doing like monkey bars and whatever. He's like climbing on stuff. He's like a monkey. He's also Spider-Man at one point too, because he's like walking on the walls and stuff. And so yeah, that was different. He has like he goes into like a sugar rush. He's all energetic. He's pouring all the sugar in his drink, and he's just addicted to sugar. And we get probably one of the most brutal arm wrestling scenes ever, when this guy's arm snaps. That's another thing that happens in this movie, is that he gets really strong. You would think that he would get really weak if he's like becoming a fly. Flies aren't that strong, but he's getting super strength, and he breaks this guy's arm, and the bone snaps, and it pokes right out his wrist. That was some brutal gore right there. And then the tagline of the movie is said, and I think I read that tagline was not the tagline yet. That was already in the movie, and then they took that line and made it the tagline: "Be afraid, be very afraid." And then his tooth falls out and his nails are coming off. That's always hard to watch in movies, when people's nails are being like peeled off, and the sound design in the movie helps it also. Ugh. And then time jumps forward 4 weeks, and so I guess the whole flies only live a month thing is not a thing no more. Because in the first movie it was like, we need to capture this fly or your father's gonna die, because that's like the lifespan of the fly is like 3 or 4 weeks. But in this movie, it's like over a month later after the experiment, and he's still alive, right? So we get the revelation that Geena Davis is pregnant, and I saw that coming. It seemed kind of obvious. But when she goes to the gynecologist, he's played by David Cronenberg. He's playing the gynecologist. And so she's like having this struggle, and she's like trying to figure out if she wants to abort it. Is it going to be, deformed, which is, that's touchy subject matter right there. Like, that's an actual, debate people always have, like, about abortion. Is it okay if you think, should a mom be allowed to abort if she thinks the baby's going to be all fucked up and, be deformed? There's all, I mean, I'm not going to get into that, but, that's something that's kind of addressed here. She thinks it's going to be a monster, so she wants to abort it, but before she can go through with it, if she was going to, Jeff Goldblum comes and he kidnaps her. He's like, that's the last piece of me. I'm dying, and I want you to have this baby. He kidnaps her, takes her back, and then we get this whole final confrontation here where he's like puking acid onto her ex-lover. His hand starts to melt. That was awesome. And then he does it to his foot, and now he's fully fly. All his flesh is like falling off. He looks very monstrous and just grotesque and awesome. And he wants to put him and the wife inside and teleport together and hopefully fuse and become one person together. Like, he's gone at this point. It's not the person we knew at the beginning. This is a different Jeff Goldblum here. I forget his character's name, sorry. Brundle, there we go, Brundle. So yeah, he's lost it, and then he becomes like part fly, part telepod, because they shoot the thing and it explodes, and then it like fucks up, and then he has like part of the telepod on his body when he comes out, and then he basically asks her to blow his brains out, and she does, reluctantly so at first, and then yeah, it's just a very sad ending, and we don't get any reveal at the end if she kept the baby or not. They kind of leave that open. Did she keep it? Well, we know now because of part 2 that she did. But I was kind of expecting that to be like the last scene of the movie, like, 9 months later, and then she gives birth, and it's a monster, and then credits. Like that typical kind of ending. That's where I was expecting it to go, but it didn't, thankfully. I'm glad they didn't do that. And so, yeah, they just kind of left that open. But now, because of part 2, like I said, the Son of Fly here, she kept it. So we'll talk about that next week, though. So that's the end of The Fly. What did you think about this Cronenberg movie? Is it your favorite Cronenberg movie? Is it your favorite Fly movie? I bet it is most people's favorite. Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, Alpha Feeder Scene.